A lot of men, from reading the comments in our videos, have received the short end of the stick when it comes to modern-day marriages. And I find it disgusting that XXs think of a man's commitment like fast food where they love to have it, but equally hate it at the same time. I was reading a comment, and one of the guys in our community mentioned starter husband, so I decided I needed to speak about this for the relationship guys who still want to get married. For those who don't know, a starter marriage, according to Martoxio family law, is typically defined as one that is entered into before a person turns 30 and one that ends before that age. During a starter marriage, it is typically unlikely for a couple to have children, and they also usually involve little joint property. So based on what I've seen in the comment section and the research I did online, I found out that some women purposefully go into marriages with the intention of the marriage not lasting a long time, just to test out what marriage would be like. I mean, how evil can these modern XXs get? I am appalled that men have to go through these types of BS from modern women. Can you imagine walking a woman down the aisle just for her to only see the marriage as temporary, and she already has her exit plan before you say I do? Holy hell, these women today are beyond words. This strategy of modern women made me realize that they are purposefully abusing the marriage system to finesse men out of their wealth. I want you to think about it from this angle. A woman can intentionally marry you knowing that she'll file for divorce at a specific time, sit up under you, and pretend to be in it for the long haul while sleeping in your bed and praying for your downfall. It's a cold world we live in, gents, so that means that a woman can intentionally marry you temporarily, and when the time in her head being in the marriage is over, she can cut with half of what you worked so hard for just like that. So in essence, you were literally sleeping with the enemy. I don't know if you guys realize that any modern woman you're deciding to spend the rest of your life with could already be plotting on when is the best time to leave you when you guys haven't even walked down the aisle yet. Can you imagine the evil mentality that it must take to willingly pretend to be in love with you while praying for your downfall at the same time? Men, if this isn't criminal, I don't know what is. I know a lot of guys have to work their butt off for their money and take disrespect from their bosses in the process to provide for a wife and family. And you're telling me that some woman's sitting up under you and spending your money plan to divorce you from the very beginning. WTF, are you guys not alarmed by this? This is how women get wealthy, by abusing the system that is set in place to punish men for leaving women. When in fact, she had already planned to leave the relationship with cash and prizes, the man just didn't know it. Oh my God, I still can't believe that this marital rabbit hole was so deep. I know I've been saying a lot of bold things about the institution of marriage and how women abuse the system. So let's provide you with some evidence on the mindset of the modern woman who had their starter husband and how they viewed that marriage. I don't know 100% if this story is real, but regardless, it will show you how women view men. This is a story by a site called Marie Claire, so let's dive into it. You'd never buy a car without test driving it first, right? So why settle into a lifelong marriage before trying one on for size? I'm just really not ready to be committed like this. That's what Andy said to Tucker, her husband of 11 months, after she came home from a crazy day at work 2 years ago with an overwhelming urge to quit her marriage. Today, right now, this just isn't for me. She spoke stoically, no tears, no histrionics. She had been imagining this moment since she moved out of their condo a few months earlier, but she wanted to ease him into the inevitable, to somehow tiptoe her way through the minefield of Tucker's emotions. But now, having scored a direct hit with those crushing words, she watched Tucker crumple against the dining room table. "I don't understand," he said over and over. "We're married. Look, we can do this now, or we can do this 5 years from now when it's a lot messier," Andy said, softening her voice but not her position. "I want a divorce." The guy didn't really do anything to deserve this, she thought, looking at Tucker's ashen face. He must think I'm a monster. Watching her husband shuffle to the door of her temporary apartment, Andy felt awful, but mostly she felt unbelievably relieved. Alright guys, I have to interject for fair use, but do you see how cold she was when announcing that divorce? Do you see that she doesn't give a F and her mind is already made up? I want you guys to let that sink in if you're planning on getting married in the future. She even said he didn't do anything to deserve the hell she was about to unleash, but the streets were calling, and she doesn't care about him and most likely never did. This is how they destroy good men and leave many men poor and on the verge of homelessness for their own selfish desires. I find it utterly disgusting, but hey, you chose to marry your wife without getting a prenup, so it is what it is. Let's continue. "I was married for like 2 seconds. That's what Annie says to me today, her enormous kohl-rimmed blue eyes crinkling as she recounts her drive-through union. It was literally an entry-level marriage. We're sitting in a cafe in a funky Boston neighborhood known for its liberal attitudes and alternative lifestyles. This is where Skittles couples raise their children. And yet women are actually swiveling in their seats, doing indiscreet 180s to get a look at the impeccably coiffed, blonde-haired woman saying such things. Hearing her words, I flinched slightly. We're talking about an event that's supposed to be a turning point in life, and she sounds so cavalier. And yet, Andy is only articulating what the 1 in 5 women under age 30 who get divorced every year must think. After graduating from college, Andy jetted off to culinary school in Paris, then switched to journalism, where she climbed the ranks, moving from one semi-glamorous job to the next, all the while hooking up, dating, dumping, and moving on. She's a perfectly modern gal, a gorgeous mess of neuroses and contradictions, the kind who never pictured herself married by 27, divorced by 28, and remarried with 2 toddlers at 35. But along the way, she met Tucker. He was what I was supposed to marry. He was what everybody else in my life wanted for me and what the world tells you you're supposed to want, she says. I got sucked into the idea. I was in my 20s and I felt like there was so much pressure from my family to find the perfect person. I just felt like, God, I'd be stupid if I didn't do this. Within months of promising to love and honor and cherish Tucker forever, she knew she had made a huge mistake. The problem, he was boring. Wholly uncomplicated, as she puts it. The kind of guy who reads Tom Clancy books on the couch and watches Adam Sandler movies while dreaming of white picket fences, going to depressing French movies, leapfrogging over the less ambitious on the company ladder. Those were the things that excited Andy. The idea of spending my life with someone like that seemed stifling, she says. It finally just got to me that he was so sunny. All right, gents, so she blew up her marriage because the guy was boring. I don't even know what to say, but this is what happens when you marry a woman who belongs to the streets. Inevitably, the streets will call out to her, and she will answer and return to the streets. I feel sorry for this poor guy. He did nothing wrong and had to lose half of what he worked so hard for because she was bored. Oh my God, how the F can modern XXs be so selfish? At least she did him a favor by leaving him before he got into his stride and started earning really good money. Can you imagine if they had kids together? She would have received child support and the half she's entitled to. Men just walk away and leave these XXs alone. Let's continue. I hoist my drink in that you go girl kind of way, but I'm struck by her casual disregard for the institution. Marriage used to be a big deal. How could she slip in and out of it so easily? She plodded along for nearly 12 months, passive-aggressively avoiding her relationship by consuming herself with the restaurant openings and black tie benefits that were part of her job. But then Tucker started talking about having children. To me, once you have kids, you can't get out, she says. When he began asking about a family, I felt like that was too final of a commitment. That's when I had to say, okay, I've got to fish or cut bait here. Gents, pay close attention to what she just said. Earlier in the video, I mentioned sleeping with the enemy. This is a prime example. You guys could be sleeping with a woman right now who plans on divorcing you, and you don't even know it. Notice how she was checking out of the marriage before the year ended, and when the guy wanted to get more serious and have kids, she decided to get her bag and run. This is common, but most women would have had the kid and locked in 18 plus years of guaranteed income. I think she was dumb to cut the marriage short without the investment. However, for the guy, this is a blessing in disguise. He didn't even realize she did him a huge favor. If he never remarries, he'll win in life. He'll absolutely win, but we won't know what he did, unfortunately. Let's continue. Her own parents split up when she was 3, and she didn't want to condemn another generation to that hell. Andy and Tucker got divorced almost a year to the day after they had vowed to be together forever. Oh my God, it was so easy, she says, exhaling loudly. I realized I can get out of this, and he can get out of this, and we can get on with our lives. They sold the condo and split the profits, and that was that. She felt bad about hurting his feelings, but she never doubted her decision. I raise an eyebrow. Never, she repeats. Andy takes a throaty slug of her second raspberry martini, picks at her fish taco, and sits back in her chair. I think marriage is the new dating and having kids is the new marriage, she proclaims loudly as yet another woman dining with her partner turns to stare. It's true. I wouldn't have married him if I didn't think I could get out of it. Despite how it sounds, Andy is not a first-class skeezer. She's the type who will hunt down the most perfectly thoughtful baby gift or whisk you off to a much-needed mani-pedi after your boss goes nuclear on you. But when it comes to relationships, her attitude is pure pragmatism. Clearly she'd screwed up, best to press delete. And I bet there isn't a married woman out there, if she's really honest, who hasn't flirted with the thought of doing the same. I know there have been days in my own 5-year marriage when I've dreamed of reclaiming my freedom. Not many, but a few. But then I wake up, not just because I love the guy, and I'm damn lucky to have him, but because I'm married. That is supposed to mean something. Alright, so guys, realize that a lot of modern women have thought about leaving their men because they viewed their marriage as slavery. They wanted to reclaim their freedom. So I'm asking you, who's watching this video right now, why the F would you marry these women if they want to be free? Please comment down below on why you'd marry a modern woman. Many guys are just suckers for love. I've come to the realization that it's the men who really want to get married, not the women. This hits close to home because my ex went into a relationship with me because she was curious about what a long-term relationship would be like. And towards the end, this broad told me the same thing, that she wanted her freedom back. Man, screw these women and just walk away. I hope you guys are taking this seriously. Even if this story was fake, this is how they really think. They only want you guys when life gets tough and they can't make it on their own, or the street chewed and spit them out like a dried bubble gum after they've been ran through. When will you guys get it? Anyways, let's continue. Andy was my introduction to the concept of an icebreaker marriage, but certainly not my last. Burning through a starter husband is almost becoming a rite of passage. While newly marrieds everywhere fear the 1 in 2 marriages fail statistic, the more relevant stat is that while the median age at which a woman first marries is 25, the median age at which she first divorces is 29. In fact, 20% of marriages fail within 5 years, and of those, 1 in 4 ends within 2 years. So much for until death do us part. I don't have to look far in my own life to find human faces that bear out the numbers. One of my best friends from college barely scratched out a 2-year union following her 6-figure Hawaiian wedding. My brother managed to eke out almost 29 months before he and his betrothed packed it up for Splitsville. Their divorces were good things, believe me. Still, I was miffed that they got married in the first place. These relationships were never the stuff of happily ever after. Of course, our generation can afford to chuck the Cinderella story when the glass slipper doesn't fit. While our grandmothers were forced to remain shackled to unhappy unions for monetary reasons, most women today have the financial wherewithal to cry uncle and bolt whenever we get uncomfortable. Alright, you guys heard that, right? I have been saying this for the past 2 years, and this is more evidence that proves that I'm right. This is the truth. Women never did want to be with just one man. Because women had to depend on a man to survive in the past, they chose to stay in relationships and marriages out of necessity. Now that they don't have to do that anymore since they've been liberated, they overwhelmingly are choosing to stay single, ride the CC, and divorce great men to kingdom come. When will you men learn that XXs don't want you and they never did? Now that women can make their own money, they no longer need you until they wreck their own lives where the money they're making isn't enough. Guys, wake the hell up. They don't want you. They are only using you as a means to an end. The only purpose they want out of you is to pay up. And if they can get the money out of you without spreading their legs and get from under your control, they won't hesitate to bring you down to nothing. Look at child support, look at alimony. What more evidence do you guys need? Only the men that they really want get the best of what they have to offer. These men get their virginity, best years, submissive and feminine nature, and kids out of them. What the hell do you get, Mr. Good Man? The rest of us are disposable. Our only use is to pass on all our hard-earned money to them and expect nothing in return. Men, wake the hell up, for crying out loud. Let's continue. For some, a starter husband is like a starter home, a semi-commitment where you're willing to do some of the surface work, like painting the walls, but not the heavy lifting, like gutting the whole foundation. He's just not a long-term investment. Others compare a starter husband to a first job, where you learn some skills and polish your resume before going after the position you really want. In our everyday life, one where we're encouraged to pursue the bigger, better anything. Witness the average college grad who now burns through 7 jobs before turning 30. How can you commit to something or someone forever? That's a huge promise. We live in an incredibly fast-paced consumerist culture, says Pamela Paul, author of the book The Starter Marriage, who herself was divorced less than a year after taking her vows at age 27. Ours is an H&M culture where you go out and buy 10 cheap items for the season, then toss them, rather than investing in one beautiful coat you'll wear for another 10 seasons. More and more women have that throwaway mentality with their first marriage, the I want it now attitude. Until, of course, you don't. And that's just our prerogative, says Generation Me, fingers poised above the do-over button. We can pick and choose among limitless possibilities, seemingly unattached to consequence, because today's 20-somethings are living out an extended adolescence in a manner unlike any generation before them. We're still knocking around and figuring it out, often on our parents' dime. Guys, modern women wholeheartedly believe that the grass is always greener on the other side, and that is why they take us for fools. It's all about them. It's always me, and never about the man. I told you guys that they're selfish, and it's like you guys think that your girl is different. Some women will end up with a bigger and better deal, and that's the truth. Some women are going to leave their men and upgrade without getting karma or facing divine retribution in terms of relationships. As sad as it is, that's going to happen to some. But you see, most of them will not, and they will struggle towards the end and expect you or their kids to save them. If you turn around and help a modern woman after karma finally kicked in, and the Lord himself is delivering divine judgment for the evils that she did to you and other men, you, sir, are a big all-monkey simp. I rest my case. Do not take pity or save these 304s after they brought you and other men nothing but suffering and turmoil. Walk the hell away and let karma do what it does best, punish, and hold these cream gobblers accountable. I think I've preached enough for one day. You guys better not turn around and soften your heart after seeing with proof what these XXs are plotting behind your back. You have to be cold and leave the plantation for your own sake. They have no problem being selfish, so why can't you? Tap that thumbs up button and subscribe for more hard-hitting RP content. Comment down below if you guys are really planning on marrying a modern woman. I'm curious how many of you guys are still planning on walking down that aisle. And gents, remember, she slept in your bed and had bedroom fun with you while counting the days until she'll divorce grape you to kingdom come. Never forget that.